introduce yourself, Mary.
Hi, my name is Mary Dossett. I am the Executive Director of JDRF, the Kentucky and Southern Indiana chapter.
My name is Savannah, and I have been type 1 diabetic for 10 years in October.
Wow.
Hi, I'm Jim Fisher. I'm a UAW benefits rep for Ford Motor Company. I'm also our UAW ride coach, and for our Southern Kentucky and Southern Indiana chapter ride team for JDRF.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for being here. And in case you're wondering what JDRF means, it's Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, which is an absolutely tremendous thing that is happening, all over the country. We're having a race. It's called the Clydesdale Tour de Clydesdales, actually. And when I first heard about it from Caroline Knopp, who's our very dear friend and Simply PR Marketing, I thought she was talking about Clydesdales.
Horses.
I was like, I saw.
Which I got to tell you, I said to Caroline, if you meet some of these guys, they are Clydesdales.
Oh, that is so funny.
We're very blessed to have them supporting us, and thank you for having us
Oh, my
today.
extreme pleasure. But it was funny. So we were going to be, it said something about a farm, and then I hear that there's going to be a third turn, and I'm thinking, still, horses. And then we were thinking about the Kentucky Derby Museum. But here's where we have decided to light. This is the UAW Hall on Fern Valley Road, and there's a very good reason that we have chosen to be in this spot. Jim, you want to take that one?
Well, Ford Motor Company is the largest corporate sponsor for JDRF. They have raised over $3.5 million a year probably for the last 10 years. This is our 20th year involvement with JDRF. We got involved because of Edsel Ford's son, Albert, is also a type 1 diabetic.
That's amazing. Todd Rhodes has already typed in. He said, I've got 53 years and I'm glad to see this.
Oh.
53 years with diabetes. So the whole concept of diabetes, I think, is misunderstood. Everybody thinks, okay, well, you've got a little blood sugar problem, and when you're feeling a little rough, you have a glass of orange juice. I mean, that's what people, I think, make it what it is, and it's not at all. It's a very, very impactful disease that creates all kinds of issues in your body. So, Savannah, I'd like you to talk about what it's like to have diabetes, and you've had it for quite a while.
Yeah, it's it'll be 10 years in October. People tend to think that it's a very basic disease, and that it's not. It changes every day. You could do one thing one day and have perfect numbers, and then wake up and eat the same thing and do the same thing the next day, and nothing is the same. It's a very day-to-day basis. It changes. Everything changes on a daily basis, and I think that's one of the hardest things, is that you're constantly having to be on top of things and keeping track of everything, because one little thing can make your numbers go crazy and ruin the rest of your day.
Okay, so we're talking about your numbers.
Yes.
I'd like to know what numbers actually are telling us, and then what are the ideal ranges that you'd like to have? And I know everybody's number range is different.
Right. When I was younger, when I was diagnosed when I was 10, so
Wow.
right when I was 10 to 12, the range is a little bit wider, because you don't really know, I was new to it, and so I had a wider range, so it was probably
Sure.
80 to 180 is around where you would stick there, and as I got older, my range should be close in it, and I think now I'm shooting in between 80 and 140 is around where I like to stay, and most days I do stay in there, so it's pretty good. Yeah, yeah, it's good though.
Mary, when you and I have known each other since your days at Young Brands, and you used to come on Louisville Live all the time with Becca White and me, which was a lot of fun. So how did you get attracted to JDRF?
My best friend growing up, Kathy Bishop, is type 1. And working for Young Brands, as you know, I worked and had the pleasure to work with many charities in town.
Yes.
Louisville is a great, compassionate city.
Weren't you in charge of all that?
I did. I
choose
managed
how to give your money away?
I did. I was
lot
on
of
the
money?
other. I like to say I'm on the other side of the chair now, and let me tell you, it's a whole different chair.
Yes, it is.
But David Novak, the former CEO of Young Brands, his wife Wendy has type 1 diabetes.
Oh my.
Yes, and I had the pleasure of working with Wendy in her partnership with JDRF, and got very attached to the cause and to the people. Obviously had a connection with my friend, and when I decided, as David would say, for the second set of your career to move over to the nonprofit, I was very lucky that a position became available.
Yes.
I lobbied hard for it, and I feel very blessed to be able to work with folks and be here doing what we do.
And you're extremely qualified for what you
thank
do.
you.
So let's get to the question about diabetes that I think a lot of people would be wondering. What is type 1? And then what is type 2? And how does that affect you? I'd love to know from your perspective as a person with diabetes type 1.
Yeah, so type 1 is genetic.
Okay.
So it runs in my family. Basically, my pancreas stopped working. So like your pancreas works and it makes the insulin. Mine just gradually stopped. Whereas type 2, their pancreas doesn't make enough insulin for them. And I think it's also
Here we go.
I think it's also a misconception that that type 2 or that type 1 is the better one. But I really don't think either of them are one's worse than the other. But type 2 you can manage easily with diet and exercise and taking medications, whereas type 1 is constantly insulin, and there's no cure for type 1. Like if you get a healthy lifestyle and a healthy diet with type 2, you can stop medications and stuff like that. Where with type 1, there's no cure. I'll always have to be on insulin.
So you take the insulin through a pump?
Yes, I've been I was on a pump for 8 years, and actually just last month I went off of the pump for a pump vacation. I got to the point, it sounds silly,
I love
but
that,
I know.
vacation.
I got to the point where I was so tired of something being stuck to my body for so long that I went to my doctor and I was like, I need a break. So currently I'm on injections, but I'm usually on a pump, which makes life a lot easier.
Well,
I realized.
Tell me what the difference is. What does your pump vacation feel like for you?
It's a little freeing. I don't have my pump on. It's a lot more responsibility. You know, my pump gave me my insulin every hour. All I had to do was tell it, hey, I'm eating 40 carbs for lunch, and it would give me my insulin. Now I have to remember, you know, I have to test my blood sugar, which I did before, and then I have to count my own carbs and then do my own ratios. If I'm eating 40 carbs, I'm over my range by 20 units, so I need to calculate for that. So it's a lot more math and it's a lot more me-based.
Yes.
So essentially I keep telling myself, I put myself in timeout because I was so dependent on my pump that I put myself in timeout, and I'm on injections now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What is it like to give yourself shots?
When I was first diagnosed, I hated it. I made my parents do all of them, and I couldn't look, and we had to use an ice cube to numb it.
But you were 10.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's
and
to be expected.
No 10-year-old wants to give themselves shots 4 or 5 times a day. But now it's to the point they make needles that are so little and so minute that I just
really
don't feel anything. And my friends always are in awe of me, and they're like, I can't watch you do it. I don't want to watch you do it. And I can do it without even looking at myself. I just give myself a shot.
So is that once a day, twice a day?
No.
Many more times a day?
Now that I'm on injections, I do it, I would say I give myself a shot 5 or 6 times a day.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd also like, and Mary, if you can take this one, what's the difference between juvenile diabetes and, well, they called it with my grandmother adult onset diabetes.
Right.
What does that mean?
Yeah, another great question, and one that as an organization, you know, we are researching now the cause of why we change. So we were the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation for many years. About 5 years ago, we changed to JDRF because we are seeing more and more onset cases of adults being diagnosed with type 1.
So you're not even calling it juvenile diabetes, you're just calling it JDRF.
Exactly. So
New branding,
and an unfortunate reason for that branding. But as you know, Savannah mentioned, and it's just not something that you as a parent would ever want to deal with to get that diagnosis. But we have kids that are diagnosed, Tara, as young as a year. And so talk about giving those shots. And as Savannah has aged and grown into the lovely adult that she is.
She's beautiful.
She's right. You know, we like to say you have to be a nutritionist and a mathematician to be able to manage this disease.
Yes.
And young children, that's a lot. And so that's why we definitely encourage the insulin pumps. But
how do you get diabetes so late in your life? I mean,
we don't know.
And
we have clinical trials right now in the process that are researching the cause. You know, to your question earlier about the differences between type 1 and type 2, it is an autoimmune disease. That's the difference.
I'll be darned.
Yes, and it's a very bizarre onset. It typically happens, not always, but typically it happens when a child gets the flu or gets sick. And so almost overnight, you'll start to see the symptoms of the autoimmune disease with your pancreas shutting down. You get very thirsty, and all of the things that we do know of.
Would that fall under the diabetes part, type 2?
that's type 1.
Oh, that's type 1.
That's type 1.
Okay.
So your
So you go
pancreas.
from being completely normal with no problems whatsoever to having major issues.
Yes, and
all at once.
those major issues tend to happen when you're a child. And so it's shocking. And the parent, as a parent, you don't really know what's going on. Again, your child is just drinking a huge amount and using the restroom more often. And by the time you get them into the emergency room, their blood sugars can be as high as 400 to 800, and that's deadly.
Jimmy Fisher Jr. is watching, Wendy Lovelace, and Nikisha Kurtzinger, Brenda Collins. Todd Rhodes says, I started giving myself shots at 10. Wow, he's spent 53 years. Talk about neuropathy. And my dear friend Catherine Ray Ziegler is watching us from Orlando. Thank you so much for tuning in to us today.
Hi, Orlando.
I know, isn't it wonderful?
Lovely.
She always says to me, Tara, come to Orlando.
Yeah. Well, I'll do a remote with you there, Tara.
I
You
know.
have to twist my arm.
Come to Orlando.
Yes.
I know. That's what she and her 4 kids and her husband just relocated down there, and they're loving it. They're in a beautiful place that has a swimming pool, and yeah, I'm not going to make us all jealous or anything. But Kat, I love you. I'm so glad you're watching. Jim, what's your experience with diabetes?
Well, I actually started out on this with no connection to type 1 diabetes
There goes the sign.
whatsoever. We'll just let that there for a second.
All right, you go ahead and answer, and then you can be the sign tender.
I got an email from work. I'm an avid cyclist, and I got an email from work from one of our vice presidents. It was sent out in a mass email looking for cyclists to join our Ford Motor Company corporate cycling team to do a ride for JDRF. And a number of my friends, they know I'm connected to with one of the local rides here in town. The local cancer ride I do.
Oh, yeah, okay, American Cancer Society.
Well, it's the Bike to Be Cancer. I ride with them.
Right.
I've been doing that for a number of years.
I bet you know Kurt Kendall, the bike guy. He rides
Probably.
all those things.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, they asked me, said, hey, Jim, you need to answer that email. And I'm like, all right. So I checked out, and I talked to my plant chairman at the time, Barry, and I checked with the company person, Tammy, and I said, hey, y'all want to put a rider in this? And I said, I'll do it. It was 72 miles around Lake Tahoe.
Good Lord.
And so next thing you know, I had forgot about it, and they come up to me a couple weeks later, and they said, hey, Jimmy, you need to sign up for that ride.
7,200 miles?
No, 72 miles.
72
miles.
I thought he said 7,200.
Around Lake Tahoe. It takes me a while, but I'll get there.
You are Superman.
So I went to Lake Tahoe, and I was riding with our corporate cycling team. Come to find out, I was the only UAW member that ever joined the cycling team.
I'll be darned.
Which was kind of cool, but it was kind of sad too.
Yeah.
And they came up to me right before the banquet, and they said, hey, Jimmy, you want to get up and speak on behalf of the UAW? And I'm like, well, sure. So I got up and I spoke on behalf of the UAW, and everything was going pretty cool. I got some high fives and some standing ovation, and I said, I'm coming back, but I'm going to come back with some more people. Okay, I'm going to come back with some more UAW people. And the following year, I signed up again, and they made me a ride coach for JDRF.
Oh,
and
nice.
then last year, we took a team of 31. I had 10 members. About a third of the team was UAW this time, up to Saratoga Springs, New York.
Cool.
And we raised over $120,000 as a team altogether
isn't that
for
amazing?
JDRF. And then I also went a couple weeks later, went to Amelia Island, Florida, and did another ride as a coach. And then I wrapped it up.
Life is tough.
The last ride of the season, I did 106 miles around the desert in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh my God, you're
So,
amazing.
This year,
Yeah, the destinations are truly beautiful.
Yeah.
I've joined, like I said, after that first ride, I had no connection to type 1 diabetes. And then before I left, I had over 400 connections to type 1 diabetes with everyone there in the room. And it's just grown, and this organization has made a big difference in my life, and I'm hoping to make a difference in someone else's.
That's fantastic.
And so this year, and give them a plug for my ride team, okay, our ride program, we have 6 destination rides around the country. One will be in Wisconsin, then we have one in Loveland, Colorado, Saratoga Springs, New York, Amelia Island, Florida, Death Valley, California.
Wow, now that'd be kind of
And
fun.
we'll wrap
wouldn't
it up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which I'm going to do definitely the last 4, maybe the 5 of the 6 here coming up.
That sounds
And
tremendous.
that's about it's a 100-mile ride every other weekend for me.
Okay,
all
so
around
I
the
have to ask the obvious question. Why did you call it the Clydesdales, other than to confuse
Well,
me?
I am not a member of the Clydesdales,
Okay.
honestly. The Clydesdales, we're very thankful for their organization, and they are sponsoring the Tour de Clydesdale benefiting JDRF.
Right.
The Clydesdales, and I happen to be a Clydesdale, okay, but not a member of the Clydesdales, okay? The Clydesdales is an organization, about 50 men, or 50 riders, and they got together and formed their bike club, their athletic club, to support different local charities. At Clydesdale, in the cycling world, is a rider that weighs over 200 pounds.
Holy smoke.
And I'm well over 200 pounds, to be honest with you. Okay, so technically, yes, ma'am,
You're a
I am a
draft horse,
Clydesdale.
is what you're telling me.
Oh yeah, and you know, when we're going on long straightaways, you can see a line forming behind me. You know,
I bet.
To pull, because we're always drafting each other. Everybody wants to get behind the big guy on the draft on the bicycle. you
Oh,
know.
isn't that amazing?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that mean you win a lot?
No.
Doggone it.
To me, if you cross a finish line, you're winning. You know, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, especially when you're raising money for a nonprofit. You know, I like to have different nonprofits join us on Take It From Tara, because it's really important to get the word out about diseases like diabetes. And we've had people who've had strokes, and we've had people who have had breast cancer, and we usually have someone who is an expert like you are, and like you are today, Mary and Savannah, just to kind of give people a chance to ask questions if they want to. And I'm just now looking back to see who else is on. Catherine Ziegler says, "Wah, wah." John Witten is watching. Ron Zender, thank you. Mary Kay Corfidge, hey, one of the greatest animal rescuers in town. Eric Cooper, who works for the pilots. Diane Gilkey, Terry Howard, you guys are all turning in. Thank you for being with us today. So when we talk about the whole concept of diabetes, I think that people maybe get scared, and you don't sound like you're scared. They get scared of saying, oh, I'm going to have to have a pump, I'm going to have to inject myself, I'm going to have to do all these things.
Right.
And it seems like you're managing it extremely well, Savannah.
Well, I mean, granted, it has been 10 years, so,
Yeah, so you're
I'm to the
probably
point where
used to it.
it's my life now. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember my life before,
Yeah.
which I was only, I mean, it's been half of my life because I'm 20, and it's been 10 years. But when I first had type 1, I was scared to tell my friends. I didn't want to tell them. I was afraid of what they were going to think. There were people that, you know, it was a lot of educating when I was first diagnosed. There were people that thought they were going to catch it from me,
Oh
that
my
they were going
gosh.
to get it, and there were a lot of people that thought that it was because of what I ate that I got it, so people would not eat the same things I was eating. So it was a lot of, I mean, we were all 10 in grade
Yes,
school, so
yes.
they all thought the same thing.
What a stigma.
Yeah, so but it was a lot of educating at first that, like, no, it's not contagious, you're not going to get it, and that it just, I got it because of my genetics, and
Do you have other
basically,
members of the family who have diabetes?
my uncle had it,
Okay.
and then my grandfather, two of his brothers had it. So it kind of jumped generations a little bit, which is, with my mom had a feeling I'm the youngest of all of the children, and then everyone in our family had been diagnosed before they were the age of 10. And so when I turned 10, my mom kind of thought we were out of the water, like everyone had gotten it or had passed by it, and then I got diagnosed in October, and my mom, and I was the baby, so the whole family was crushed. But, you know,
Sure.
I think I got it for a reason. You know, I'm very tough. I want to educate people on it. I want to, you know, raise the money for it. And I think I think it's good. I'm very thankful that I got this disease when I did.
Are you a cyclist?
I'm not.
Didn't know
I'm
if
not.
you were
Nope.
interested in getting on this massive.
We work on her, but she
Yes.
does a lot for us. But I don't think cycling's going to
cycling.
be, one of those.
I'll pass on that one.
So Jim, if you want to take your mic off real quick, you can put
Okay.
that beautiful sign back up, and maybe see if you can. There's another thing that you can weigh it down. We've just got a little bit of a stiff breeze out here. We're getting some vertical movement in our clouds, a little bit of growth. So I'm kind of wondering if we're going to have a storm this afternoon, and Jim is going to save the day by putting all that stuff back up again. JDRF is researching diabetes, and hopefully we're going to find a cure at some point. And what is the timeline that the JDRF would like to see researchers come up with some solid information that will help someone like Savannah not have to stay on a pump for the rest of her life?
Yeah. That's a great question, and I got to tell you, as an organization, of course, we want to say yesterday.
Yes, of course.
And there was a period of time in the 90s when we really started. I'll kind of back up a little bit, because this inspires me every day. They inspire me, but this too inspires me. JDRF, since we were founded in the early 70s by a group of a few moms, there were no support for the type 1 community. And they started this organization, and since that time, we have raised over $2 billion.
Oh my God, that's
for type 1 diabetes. It is, and as you know, I mean, it's not enough, because research is very expensive. And what we do as an organization is not only fund that initial research, at the university level, at the clinical level, but we also then will fund it through what we call the pipeline.
Okay.
So you've got to take it through the FDA approval process, which is complicated, especially in the U.S. as compared to Europe. And then we need to move it in to make sure that it's affordable to our families.
Isn't that amazing?
So to answer your question, when we were founded, it was basically insulin. And in the 90s, we really started to see our research take good foothold, and the arrival of glucose monitors and insulin pumps, fast action insulin. So we're making progress. In the 90s, we really thought that was going to be the decade for a cure. We made the mistake of saying that, and we disappointed, but our intentions were good. So we don't know. To answer, it's a very long answer. We have an hour. And this is what you get for putting me on, because obviously
You're full of information.
I'm very passionate. But
do you have a child who has diabetes?
I do. I'm 400, but I do not. I just love these kids.
Mama Mary.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, a little. She knows.
So I want to know about the actual drawing of blood. This is a part that makes some of you squeamish. So don't turn off the live cast. But we're not going to do anything. Don't worry. I should have asked you. Do you have stuff in your car?
I do. I have stuff with me.
Would you show us?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. Okay, so just let me pop that off for you. Go grab your stuff. I love doing stuff like this. So when I was on a telethon one time, and I think it was leukemia and lymphoma, they asked me if I would be tested for the bone marrow registry. And the poor young guy who came on could not find a vein on me. And so he kept stabbing me.
Oh.
And and I just kept talking, and I was breaking out into a sweat, because he was stabbing me over.
But knowing you did not.
I just kept talking, and finally the supervisor who was with them came over and was like, let me give it a shot. And in the meantime, the guys who were in the where's that mic? Here we go.
Oh yeah.
Let's pop that back on there. The guys who were in the control room were just getting me all kinds of grief. Don't fall over, don't fall out of that chair, Tara. You're really making your makeup run. But anyway, I also did a commercial. I made a commercial for one of those things that you stab your finger on, and it stabbed. I mean, it was painful.
Wow.
You stick your finger in, and it just go boom,
And this was like a
years ago.
Yeah.
Years ago. How you test your blood. And they're making it all easier and everything. I'm like, oh my God, I'd so much rather prick my finger with a little lancet or something.
Where we are today.
Brutal. So tell me, if you will, have you tested your blood sugar recently?
I mean, I can. I just did it like 2 hours ago, but I can do it again.
Will you?
Yeah.
Do you mind?
No, that's
okay,
fine.
Talk us through the process.
Okay, so this is it's called a PDM, a personal diabetes monitor. It connects to my pump usually, but I'm not on my pump right now.
Right, you're taking a vacation.
Right, exactly. I'm on my vacation, but I still use this because it keeps all my data and my numbers and everything. And then also this remotely can go to my doctor, so I can just send it. I can just text my doctor and be like, "Hey, I uploaded my numbers. Can you take a look at them, and we can make corrections if we need to."
Wow.
And so she can look at it and tell me, "Okay, let's move your hourly rates down or up, or let's move your insulin to carb ratio around." So she can help me out,
Is
which
she
is
better
very
at math than you are?
Yes.
What kind of doctor treats diabetes?
An endocrinologist.
An endocrinologist.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So here's the first step.
So I'll take one of the test strips, and which I have a bunch in here, so I need to, and then I'll put it in here.
Okay. So
And
it goes right into the little machine.
Yep. And then my screen actually says Wonder Woman. I have to confirm that I'm Wonder Woman.
Cute. You are a Wonder Woman. That's pretty amazing.
And then usually it's been 10 years for me, so I don't follow all the rules, but usually you're supposed to alcohol swab your finger, but I'm to the point where it's been 10 years, so I just go for it.
Kind of like those people who, put their contacts in their mouths.
Yeah.
Everybody says don't do it, but, we all did it anyway.
So then I'll just prick my finger.
Now, that didn't sound terribly painful.
No, it's really quick, and I don't feel a thing. I've done it probably a million times now.
So you squeeze it,
and a little blood comes out, and then you just put it on the strip.
I'll be darned.
And it reads it for you.
So tell us what your numbers say when it comes up.
Okay.
Is it instant or does it take a while?
It takes a minute.
And then the little vampire drinks her blood.
Yep. It read 124.
And that's good,
That's
right?
good. It's in range.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
Have you ever been in a situation where people have asked you what it is that you're doing because they didn't know what a diabetes checker was?
Actually, my pump, which I probably should have put one on for this so you can see what it looks like, but my pump is like a little half egg, and it sticks on my arm, or I wear it on my back or whatever, and in the summer you can usually see it on me. And there have been multiple people. I remember when I was probably 13, and I was at a museum tour downtown with my family, and an older man, he was probably like 40, 50, stopped me during the tour and asked me if it was my smoking patch. And I replied, and I was like, yes, I'm a 13-year-old with a smoking problem. Like, I'm like, no. Going back to the educating, I had to educate him that, no, this is my insulin pump. And, I can't discredit him. I mean, he didn't know what that looked like. Most people don't know what a pump looks like, because a normal pump has a tube, and a normal pump is connected to you like through a needle, and mine just looks like a little patch on my arm. So I'll give him that it didn't look like a normal pump. But yeah,
I didn't realize a pump was so small.
Oh, they are these days.
A patch on your arm.
And so again, that was what we really saw in the 90s in JDRF research. We have over 70 clinical trials right now through our research on various technologies, and one of them is taking the insulin pump to a new level. So you right now can have a glucose monitor on one side of you that's always monitoring your levels, and then the insulin pump on the other side. There's manual interaction, but it manages your diabetes. Not as flawlessly as we would like. Now we're to the point, Tara, where we've combined those two mechanisms, and it's called an artificial pancreas. In partnering with a local, not local, they're an international company, but we have local partners with Medtronic, and it's called the 670G, and it's as close to an artificial pancreas as we've gotten.
Isn't that amazing?
So you do nothing other than a little, what you call bolus, right before your meal, and it constantly talks to each other.
What is bolus?
I was going to let you do that.
It's the insulin. So you have basal and bolus. So your basal is like your hourly rate, right? Yes, I'm right. Okay. And the basal is your hourly rate, so it's the insulin that you get every hour on the hour to keep your insulin levels in check, so that way I'm constantly throughout the day, I'm staying in range. And then my bolus is the insulin that it gives me when I test my blood sugar and say I'm going to eat dinner, and I tell it I'm going to eat 60 carbs for dinner. Then it gives me a bolus for a ratio of insulin to carb, and then it also gives me a ratio for how many units I'm over my goal, like my blood sugar goal. So it'll give me units to lower me down there, and along with units for the carbs and all that. So bolus and basal.
How do you tell it? I keep saying you tell it.
Yeah, well,
if I
had my thing on, I would just basically, I have the arrows on here, and I would just say that I'm going to eat now. After I tested, when it said 124, I would say I'm going to eat, and then I'll say I'm eating 60 carbs, and then I'll hit okay, and then it'll just give me my insulin remotely to my pump.
Crazy. It's just crazy.
The technology is amazing.
Jim, you look like you want to jump in here.
Well, they have, I go to a lot of these different things with the bike rides, and our CEO, Derek Rapp, he puts on a little seminar and talks about the latest technology that they're working on.
Oh, sure.
And one of the things that they're working on right now is, I think it's called cell encapsulation. I got that right?
Cell encapsulation.
Encapsulation. I actually pay attention. And it looks literally like a little Band-Aid type thing, and then they are taking the person's own cells and reproducing those and encapsulating them back into this, and then where it'll make their body start producing their own insulins again.
So
they are several years out. I want to say 8 to 10 years away.
Yeah, again, I'm always hesitant, but that's our goal. And, it is in, one of the exciting things is it is in human clinical trials now. But essentially what happens with type 1 diabetes is that, pancreas attacks its own cells.
Right.
Yes. And so when you have that encapsulation, your body that is keeping that from occurring.
Yes.
And so that is as close to a real cure as we've gotten, and it's very exciting for the community.
Okay, so this is probably an obvious question, but you know, I ask questions that I think other people would ask. Oh,
Yeah.
First I want to just acknowledge Eric Cooper says, hello from your neighbors down the street at the IPA. And Pia Ping is watching me. He's my favorite sushi chef. Barbara Powers, Eric Heil, Ed Huckleberry from 840 WHAS, Intrepid Newsman, Sheila Bishop, David Finley, Cassie Simon's in from Washington, D.C., Shauna Wallace, Troy Hendricks. Thank you all so much for watching Ticket from Tara today. We are at the UAW plant on Fern Valley Road, and we're talking about JDRF, which has to do with raising money for diabetes research. And the reason we're here, Jim, is because
We have on June 24th, the Tour de Clydesdales is doing a ride to support JDRF. And we have a bicycle tour that the Clydesdale organization, Clydesdale Athletic Club, is putting on. And it'll start out at Third Turn Brewery out in Crestwood. We go out, they'll have a 15-mile route and a 30-mile route with a little more hills if you like. We will have a lunch, and Clydesdale's is buying the first beer on them for anyone that wants one after the ride.
awesome.
You can go to the website www.jdrf.org/go-to/Clydesdales.
You can also see that on their website, so
Yes.
don't panic if you
And
Those
sign
kind
up.
of things are
I'm
tough
just
to
so impressed right now. that
I'm
he
very
went
impressed.
through that whole thing.
Yeah, good, man. You also told me, though, that Ford has a huge role in JDRF.
We do.
Talk to
This
us
is
about
our
that.
20th anniversary of the Ford Global Action Team, and Ford, again, is their involvement is because of Edsel Ford, whose son Albert got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and who is doing very well and involved with the company. And so every year they have been raising, on the average, and I just attended a meeting up in Detroit last week where they have averaged over $3.5 million a year every year, even during the economic downturn.
Wow.
To support the research at JDRF.
Okay, so this is a question that you may not want to answer, or you may not be able to answer, but I'm going to guess that you are. You said Edsel Ford's son had diabetes, but how many Edsels have there been since Henry? Because they've kept all
he
the
is
same
Edsel
names.
Ford the third. Yes.
Yeah, because Edsel was the one car that just didn't really work out for Ford.
Yeah, right.
And we built it here.
Did you really?
We built it right down the street, right there at the
Interesting.
Fern Valley Road plant.
What
That's
was
where
it about an Edsel that just didn't work?
I don't know. I think it was
He
a
wasn't
it was
here
a it was
for
a
it.
car ahead of its time.
Well, I'm telling you what, it's interesting because I've heard that name now pop up a few times in this conversation, and I just had to know, how many generations ago did we actually start with Edsels? So I guess Henry had sons, and he named the first cars after them,
Right.
and then they just continued down in the geographical line. So that's pretty cool. I should say genealogical line, not geographical line.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Allison Perkins, welcome to Take It From Tara. We are at the UAW, which stands for United Auto Workers, in case anybody is not up on the acronyms, talking about JDRF. And I have to promote something else that's going to be happening, hopefully within the next half an hour or so. I know how excited everybody is about our last Triple Crown winner, Justify. And I, as did all good Kentuckians, burst into tears at the end of the race in relief. And even though we had a 37-year drought between the last winner and American Pharoah, and now we've only had 4 years, which people felt like a little anticlimactic. I don't feel that way. I think if any horse can run 3 races that close together, getting more and more, difficult. I mean, my God, that horse was just amazing, and he ran wire to wire every time. Did you ever notice Mike Smith didn't have a single speck of dust on him?
No.
He was amazing. So, one of the owners of Justify, Clint Glasscock, is supposed to come by and just chat with us a little bit, and I'm going to ask him about the race strategy that's being much debated in the news, and I'm going to find out about Justify and the incredible stud fee that he's about to have. And just generally, what happens to a racehorse of the caliber of Justify after he's won the big deal? I mean, so many people say they would rather win the Kentucky Derby than any other race. But when you win the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont, and you take that Triple Crown, There's nothing like it.
Amazing.
So they're going to be coming
And
back.
all the different track conditions also.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we had all the rain on Derby Day
that
itself.
was
I mean, it was the wettest Derby, I believe, in history.
And then the fog.
I was there
at
in the infield.
Preakness. I mean, the fog was just unbelievable.
This horse had it all thrown at him, and
Oh
just,
my God,
it's
he
amazing.
just kept on going, which I just loved about him. So I'm going to be talking in just a little while to Clinton, which will be kind of fun too. So Mary, when you have someone who has been diagnosed with diabetes, what resources can you point them to as JDRF to help them get used to the idea? I'm sure it was kind of a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what
It was.
resources do you have that you can point them to help them deal with that uncertainty, maybe not knowing exactly what to do? Doctors don't always have a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
So there's, I'm very pleased and proud to say a lot these days, in large part, again, to the Novak family. So we have a wonderful facility downtown, the Wendy L. Novak Diabetes Care Center. They are great partners of JDRF.
Good.
And we collaborate with the hospitals. So when there is a new diagnosis, we as JDRF provide the hospital with something called a bag of hope.
Oh,
And
wow.
inside that bag of hope, again, because our kiddos are so young,
Yeah.
we have a little Rufus bear
Aw.
who has little patches
Aw.
and a needle, and that will help them acclimate to the process of taking their shots. But in addition, there's a lot of information inside, educational materials, and there's a form for them to fill out, and if they would like, JDRF will then reach out to them and hook them up with a mentor. And usually that mentor is another family that has had a diagnosis at the same age.
Yes.
Because you are diagnosed, you're in the hospital for 3 days, and you're sent home with this life-changing. And we talk about it, and Savannah is an amazing example. But this disease, as you have mentioned, is very, very serious.
Yes, it is.
And life-threatening, to say the least. And it is a 24-hour disease, most dangerous at night, because your lows, you have a tendency to go low at night, and the fear is that our kiddos won't wake up. And so we have a lot of parents who don't sleep, and having someone to speak to and help them through that is very critical. So we have that, and then we have a lot of outreach outings, bowling nights and such.
You love that, didn't you?
I actually still have my bag of hope with my Rufus bear from 10 years. He's still in my bedroom at home.
So nice.
Most nights I live on campus now at my college, but when I go home.
Where do you go?
University of Louisville.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But when I go home, I see him, and it reminds me. I remember when I got home from the hospital, and I had the Rufus bear, and I got a book about the Rufus bear, and I got all these cool things that it made me feel kind of special because I got this little bag, this little goodie bag.
Absolutely.
But as I've gotten older, I've also there's also a group of us that are probably aged 16 to like 25, somewhere around there, that we get together. We try to get together like once a month, and we
that's
have little outings,
fantastic.
and we share stories and tips about
Yes.
what to do in the middle of the night if you wake up, or it's also just nice to know there's someone else that I can talk to if I have a question
Yes.
about, like when I took my pump vacation, I texted one of the girls that's been type 1 diabetic for probably a lot longer than I have, and I
Sure.
asked her, and she told me she took a pump vacation too, and she pointed me in the right direction on what to do and how to take care of it.
Mentorship.
And,
Mentoring.
yeah, it is.
So I'd like to get to a little bit more difficult topic with this, and that is, what are the things that can happen to you when you have diabetes? If you're not, well, I'm not going to say if you're not taking care of yourself, but one of the things that can happen, I know, is you can lose limbs, particularly your feet and your legs. And oftentimes I think people say it's because they didn't take care of themselves, but I think maybe some of these things can happen even if you do take care of yourselves.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
with type 1 diabetes, and that is one of the misconceptions about this disease.
Right.
It is very different in type 2, and even with the type 2 community, it is believed that there is a genetic disposition.
Absolutely.
But because there's some functionality with that pancreas, you can, with lifestyle changes, manage it. You cannot with type 1, unfortunately. You can do everything a certain way one day, and the next day you do that same thing and you're all over the place.
Yeah, that's what Savannah was saying. You just can't rely on it. It's just going to mess you up.
It's not a routine disease. It's not it's a day-to-day. Every hour is different than the last hour.
What are some of the things that can happen to you if you have diabetes, just physically? What are some of the side effects of this disease?
I know loss of eyesight is a big one. like bad circulation in my fingers and in my toes. So a lot of times, my toe, a lot of things get easily infected too. Like
really?
I don't heal as normal as others. It takes a lot longer. So a lot of times when I get a scratch or when I get an ingrown toenail or something, I have to be on it right away. And I have doctors for everything. I have a foot doctor. I go to my eye doctor probably way more than I should. I go like 4 or 5 times a year just to make sure I'm keeping up with everything and my eyes are doing okay. Which I mean, everything's doing fine now, so it's good. But you just have to keep on top of everything way more than a normal person would.
Yeah, and you had mentioned earlier, you know, the various nonprofits that you work for, and it's interesting with type 1, to oversimplify this, what happens is we know we eat, your body turns that into energy. Right? And then that energy needs to make its way around your body to feed everything all the time.
Yes.
And what insulin does is when that energy is passing by your heart, it says, open up now, I'm going to give you a little energy, because there's only so much to go around.
Yeah.
And this is happening, every day, all day. And that's not happening with the type 1, even when they have great measurements. Wow. So it is constantly affecting your organs, your heart, your kidney. To Savannah's, point, neuropathy is a big thing. And so it has an impact even when you have really tight controls. It's always having some type of impact somewhere in your body.
So let me see if let me just guess how this thing works, because I'm liking, you just said I don't heal. So if you had wounds on the bottom of your feet that didn't heal, and you weren't aware of that, and they became gangrenous, that would be when the amputations start taking place.
Yeah. So that's why I'm constantly checking, and I go to a podiatrist, and she checks. I go once a year, and she checks everything, and I have to stay on top of it. If I have a scar, if I have a bruise, even bruises take much longer to heal. But if I have a scar or if I hurt myself in any way, I have to be on it, and I have to, make sure I'm cleaning it properly. But even when I do clean it properly, it's still, most of the time it does get infected. So I'm always, going to the pediatrician or my doctor and getting antibiotics to help it heal quicker. And it's a constant battle of, you got to keep on it. You can't let it get to the point where you can't turn back.
Absolutely. So we're on Take It From Tara at the UAW Hall. The reason why, there is a tour to Clydesdale, which is a wonderful bike race to benefit JDRF, which is diabetes research, and we're very excited about the outcome of that. Who will be the Clydesdale winner? You are at Clydesdale, Jim.
I am at Clydesdale.
Because you're a big dude.
I am a big guy.
And everybody likes to draft behind you in the bike races, I understand.
And I don't understand the draft behind you.
It's like NASCAR.
Okay.
You know how NASCAR, and they all get in a line on the super speedways, the Talladega or the Daytona, same thing. The guy in the back is just holding on. He's getting pulled along in the draft.
So
you don't have to pedal as hard. You can pedal half as much. The guy in the back, he's just sucking in for the draft. He's got a free ride. Doesn't have to pedal, but the guy in the front, he's doing all the work.
You're the hard worker.
Doing all the work.
So this Tour de Clydesdale is going to be a fantastic race, and everybody's invited to participate in standing and cheering, and starting at the beginning and ending up at the end, and partying with the folks from the JDRF, and it's going to be a blast. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. Mary and Savannah and Jim are a big part of the organization. Jim's the rider, as we said. Savannah has type 1 diabetes, and Mary is the executive director of JDRF, and has a long history of wonderful philanthropy work in Louisville. And we were talking just a minute ago about how different it is to have people ask you for money than asking people for money.
Absolutely.
That's a challenge. So how have you worked through that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was just having a conversation before I came in today with one of my board members on that very subject. Having great support. Jim is also a board member. He recently joined. Yes. So,
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I tell you, Tara, Louisville is a generous community, as you can imagine. So that makes it easy.
Well, over 600 nonprofits, you can imagine that we're generous.
Yes, yes. But what is really helpful, and I found when I came on with the organization several years ago, is people need to know who you are and what you are.
Yes.
And, I don't think that we as an organization have always done a great job of that. So that's why we're really grateful for you having us on today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that
Caroline
definitely helps.
Knopf says jump, and I ask how high.
I'm the same.
Immediately.
we share that.
Because she's amazing. Jamie Nicole is watching. Jean Brown just tuned in. Mickey Price, thank you guys for joining us at this wonderful and opportune moment that you can learn about what's happening with diabetes research. One of the events is a huge bike race, and we're talking to Jim about that. We're talking to Savannah about type 1 diabetes, and you can just put that on the chair right there. Perfect. And Mary Dossett is actually running the JDRF, which is a huge responsibility in and of itself. So I want to know more about how the bike race works.
Sure.
There's a beginning, middle, and end.
Absolutely.
Does the beginning be the end? I mean, do you come and go to the same place, or?
You do.
Oh, well, that's
and the
better.
thing that makes this particular
hate to go out and
bike
pick
race-
those guys all
Yeah.
up and bring them back like on a canoe trip, right?
Yes, absolutely. This is a good example, and kind of to the question that you asked a moment ago. This event is something that we call a third-party event. So JDRF has our core programming, our walk, our ride program. We have also a gala program.
Oh, wow.
I know, we do a lot with a small staff and dedicated volunteers.
A lot of volunteers
This
are
event,
necessary.
however, is put on solely by one of our other board members, Joe Blazes. He
Joe
couldn't be here
Blazes.
tonight. He's doing all the work. He set it up from start to finish, asked for the sponsors, and set the course up.
That's
and made
tough.
it family friendly.
Wow. So kids can ride, actually?
Absolutely.
Anyone.
Anybody can
Yeah,
ride.
and they're,
How do you sign up then? If anybody can ride, and the whole family comes out and says, "I'm going to bring my tricycle and my big wheel and everything
we
else."
love that. We're always about family. So we'll put the link on your Facebook and our Facebook, and we have a website that you can sign up. Third Turn, again, they're being wonderful. They're providing the location, start and stop. We will have food available and a great live band.
Okay,
So,
when is the date of the race?
June 24th.
yes.
June the 24th. So we got about a week and a half to go to get
Right.
people registered. Is there any entry fee that you must pay to
There's
get
no
into the
entry
race?
fee, but that we are asked that anyone signs up raise $200.
You want everybody to try to raise
We'd like to
$200.
raise about $200 a piece.
Yeah.
That's a small amount, and what I have found, because I do a lot of fundraising for a lot of the rides and different things that I do,
Yeah.
once people find out that you're doing something for such a good organization, they throw money at you. Again, Louisville is such a giving community. And
Yes, Jim walked into my office, and I will never let him forget this. It's an experience
He already knows.
I
He's
hope to
laughing.
have again. He knows exactly what I'm going to say. He throws $8,000 in cash down on my desk.
Wow.
I'm just
Jim, I work at Bridgehaven
Yeah.
Mental Health Services. We're at 950 South
I tell you
First
what,
Street.
I did not do that all by myself. I had a lot of help. And
That's amazing.
We have our UAW Ford retirees here, and we have our booth at the fair. And we sold tickets. Not only did we sell tickets every year on a Mustang that the Kentucky Truck Plant,
Sweet.
but we had tickets on a Raptor that Ford Motor Company had donated JDRF for us to raffle on.
That's amazing.
And so they helped at the fair, and we bought some, and sold them here at the plant and the other plant on the Raptor. And it was almost 9,000. I don't want to cut myself short.
Yeah,
It's
sorry. No, I don't.
I walked in with about almost $9,000 in cash and set them right there on Mary's desk, and it was a really good feeling, knowing that all of it, goes towards research to help cure diabetes, to help her.
That's nice to put a face on it too. With Savannah, do you know who Sherry Donahue is? Thanks for all you're doing, Jimmy and Mary. And everyone can do $200 for such a great cause. Charlie Wilburn says, "Nice job, Jim." Sherry Donahue again says, "Jimmy Fisher is a great supporter of many events and causes he believes in. I'm lucky to call him my friend." Wow,
Sherry.
good for you.
Sherry and I went to
The
high
check
school.
is in the mail, Sherry.
And Charlie, haven't seen Charlie in a long time. Charlie and I
Isn't
went
that
to grade
nice?
school and high school together and grew up a couple streets away.
The power of Facebook, right?
Power of
Sharon
Facebook.
Lawrence Brown just tuned in, one of the most beautiful mezzo-sopranos in the city of Louisville, and my mama Sharon, and I love her very much, so thanks for tuning in, Sharon. The reason that everybody's going, where is Wagon Wednesday? What's going on? Where are my animals? Well, this is kind of like a virtual Wagon Wednesday, because when we started out talking about the tour to Clydesdale several months ago, I was under the impression that it was Clydesdale horses, and I thought, oh great, I saw them at the Kentucky Derby Festival, and now I'm going to get to see them again. And then I found out they're not horses, they're bicyclists,
Big
and they're
guys.
called Clydesdales, big dudes, draft horses of riders. And so the way that we accommodated that is Clinton Glasscock, who is one of the owners of Justify, who just, of course, swept the Triple Crown and became the 13th horse to do so, said he would stop by and chat with us, which will be kind of fun because as I want to know all kinds of things about this horse. As a proud Kentuckian, you know, when I watch those races, my heart just leaps into my throat, and it's so exciting. Doesn't matter how many times it's happened and how far apart. Those horses that take the Triple Crown are amazing. And the last one, I can barely say this without crying, but the last race, the Belmont, the guy was calling it, and he said he's something like, he's coming down the stretch, he's easy running, he's this, he's that, he's immortal. And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. So I'm looking forward to meeting this gentleman who is one of the owners of Justify, and we'll see what we can find out about all the excitement of having a Triple Crown horse and what happens next. What does happen next? What happens next after you're finished with this race? What other events do you have planned?
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if they just make a lot of money just by
The stud farm.
Thank you.
75 million.
I was trying to find a better way of saying that, but there is no. Absolutely.
Breeding shed.
Yes, exactly.
Is a genteel way to say it.
There you go. Yes.
$75 million. It was only going to be 65, and then it, for whatever reason, we'll ask Clinton this, it turned into 75 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can just imagine. But it's interesting because horses have very different results, you know, and you go back and you look at the greatest racehorses that people have in their heads, and they've produced a lot of horses, but they haven't produced a lot of winners, which is always fascinating to me because it's like, how can one horse do this so effectively, and how can their progeny not? So this will be an interesting conversation with Clinton, what am I saying? Clinton Glasscock, who is the owner of one of the owners of Justify. Okay, so we've got a nice crowd of people. Thank you guys for tuning in with us. We appreciate it. And we're talking to Mary, who is the executive director of JDRF Research for Diabetes. We're talking to Savannah, who has type 1 diabetes, and we're talking to Jim, who is one of the Clydesdales, or the bicyclists. They're going to be in this huge event on June the 24th. It will put the Tour de France to shame, and it will actually involve a lot of family members too. So that would be kind of cool. Get online. What's the website you want us to go to? JDRF.org?
www.jdrf.org/go/Clydesdale.
He's so smart.
I'm so impressed.
And it's on your website.
I looked straight to him for that, but yes, you could visit www.jdrf.org.
Yeah, that's the easy way.
Click on events, and it's listed out there as well.
I love that. So, Savannah, tell us what you've done with your life since you were diagnosed with diabetes 1 at 10 years of age.
I've done the JDRF walk every year. I think I was actually diagnosed on the weekend of the walk when I was 2 years old, so we missed it that year. So it'll be 10 years this coming October. And of course, when you're younger, you start out, and we probably had like 40, 50 people on my team. And you know, you raise, the first year is always the best year because you raise so much money. And I thought that my money would, I thought the donations would kind of stop when I got older, but they never did.
They never did.
Nope, I still raise about the same amount every year, which just amazes me how generous my friends are, my mom's friends.
They just keep giving.
Yeah, because I think it's every year. It happens every year. I'm like, eventually they're going to stop, but they never
do. They don't.
No, so it's very
well, they love you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they love you.
It's very heartwarming to know that they still support me after 10 years, and so we do that, and then probably 6 years ago, I think I started volunteering at the JDRF Gala, which I've loved doing. We raised money. Wonder Woman. Yep, this year I dressed up as Wonder Woman, and we had because it was superhero themes. Yep, and that was a lot of fun. There were a lot of little kids there that were fun to help and get up on stage and have them hold up the signs for $5,000. And it was very heartwarming to see the people raise their paddles to donate $5,000, and this little kids on stage dressed up like Supergirl, and it was I love the gala. It's probably my favorite event.
That's incredible. When does that take place, Mary?
We are scheduled for 2019 on March the 9th.
Okay.
Tentatively.
Okay.
We're looking forward to that. The theme will be Into the Blue. So we're still fleshing that out a little, Tara. I'm not right. What is Into the Blue? I'm not sure yet. We just liked it. This is how we start creatively building the event. But to Savannah's point, it is an amazing event. We have a great committee, great sponsors.
Good. Well, like Ford, for instance.
Absolutely. We have
How
Ford,
much
UPS,
does
Vision
Ford
Works.
actually give to JDRF across the country?
Yeah, that in one of the things that I was going to jump in enthusiastically. I never do that, do I, Jim? When we talk about Ford Motor Company raising $3 million a year, that's at the associate level, which is pretty incredible. As Jim mentioned, here locally, between the two plants, we'll get nearly $200,000, and that's through raffle sales, golf events, car shows, bike rides, 50-50 chances at the plant. So it's very inspiring.
That is amazing.
Yes, and then the Ford family are very generous supporters as well.
Edsel?
Edsel Ford.
Edsel, whose son has diabetes?
Absolutely.
Is his son also Edsel, just out of curiosity?
Albert.
Albert?
His son is Albert.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of an Albert
Yes.
before.
He just recently started with the company.
I believe so, yes.
Uh-huh. So it's millions. I can't tell you off the top of my head exactly how much they give every year, but I do know $3 million a year from the associates. And then they do a raffle at, what is the place out in Scottsdale? I know you'll know. Famous car auction.
Oh, we just had it here.
Yeah.
It's okay. It doesn't
Well,
matter. It's in
this-
Scottsdale. That's the most
big
important
auto
part.
auction
Yes,
in
it is.
Scottsdale.
I'll be darned.
And Ford donates a car for that, a specialty car. and
Wow.
It raised over $150,000. No, I think it was like $1 million this last year. It's crazy the things that they do for us.
Savannah, you're shaking your head as if in mystery of how all these people could come together
Yeah,
to help
it's
you
amazing.
and the people who are, living with diabetes as you are.
Right.
Did you ever feel put upon, or did you ever feel like it wasn't fair that you were the one who had to stick your finger and you were the one who had to wear the pump, especially as a child?
Right. I had my moment when I was younger where I think it was actually when I was in the hospital and I looked at my mom and I was like, just take it, like get rid of it, take it away. And I think that moment broke my mom's heart because there was nothing she could do. There was nothing she could do to stop it or take it away. At that point, it is what it was. But I think ever since then, I haven't really had a moment where I wish I didn't have it. I'm thankful that I didn't get it versus my cousin's, baby child who's 2. I'm thankful that he doesn't have it. If I'm the one that has to take it, then that's fine for the family, So now I'm really not, I don't resent anyone. I kid with my mom all the time, and I'm like, you're the one that gave it to me because it came from her line of the family. But she knows.
How did you know that? How did you determine that?
Oh, it doesn't. Well, it kind of runs in the family.
Okay.
It's very genetic. No one on my dad's side of the family had it.
So it was your mom's brother, the uncle, that had it.
That had it. Yeah. And so I always joke with her that she's the one that gave it to me, and I'm like, whenever I want something, and I'm like, well, you're the one that gave me diabetes. It always works.
Absolutely. So what is your life like now? You're at U of L. Tell me about your schooling.
Yeah, I'm at U of L. I'm going to be a junior. I'm majoring in accounting, so I'm knee deep in accounting right now.
I bet.
I love it. So
She is good at math.
Yes.
Much better than I am. To calculate all those blood things. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously. So what are you going to do when you get out besides being an accountant? What are your loves and likes and things that you do outside of it?
I love to bake. I love baking. I think it's so much fun and very relaxing. My dad's mother owned a bakery he's from Tucson, Arizona.
I'll be
and
darned.
So she owned a bakery and a restaurant. So my dad knows how to cook. He knows how to bake. So I've learned everything from him, like making cakes from scratch, making the most amazing things. I've learned a lot from him, and so I love doing that. So it's for everyone's birthdays in the family. Everyone always texts me like, I want this cake or I want this done, and so I do a lot of that, which I love, and I love doing it for fun. I don't ever want to really own a bakery or anything. I just want to do it, for my future children and my, just whatever, and just have fun with it. I really enjoy that, and I've recently taken up tennis, which I love.
Good.
It's fun. But other than that, I just keep myself pretty active.
How important is exercise in living with diabetes?
Very important.
Very important.
I've learned a lot that when my numbers are a little bit higher than they should be, a lot of people just give themselves insulin and just move on. But a lot of times if my number's a little higher, I'll go for a walk or I'll go to the gym and work out because that helps lower my numbers. And I think it's also a healthier way to lower my numbers than just giving myself more and more medication. I can do it more gradually and more healthier.
I love that. And then food, you just said you love to bake, but going to the grocery has to have some challenges.
Yeah. I remember the first grocery trip we took when I was first diagnosed. We were at the grocery for like 3 hours.
Yeah,
because we were checking every label, everything. And my dad said when I got diagnosed, he went home and he just opened our pantry and just threw everything away because he didn't know what I could and couldn't eat. And most of the things, I mean, he had a 12 and a 10-year-old. Like we didn't eat the greatest. We were eating like fruit snacks and juice boxes and stuff like that. And I can't have any of that, or I couldn't have any of that. Obviously, now that it's been 10 years with modification, I can eat, ice cream if I want it. I just have to give myself the medication for the insulin for it. I have to make sure, I can't have ice cream if my number's super high, but if I'm in range and I give myself insulin for it, then I can have a treat, and it's nice.
It's not a death sentence, and it's not a life modifier that will make you miserable. As long as you pay attention to what's going on and manage the symptoms. That's what I'm getting from everything that you're saying.
Yeah, management is a big deal. Yeah, you have to stay on top of it.
So what do you eat?
Anything. I can eat anything. I try to stay away. Obviously, I can't drink like juice, which I miss a lot. I used to drink a lot of juice. I can't drink juice or like regular sodas. I try not to eat a lot of sweets, but I'm a very sweet tooth type person.
Oh, me too.
It's very hard. You just have to do it in modification. You just have to. I can't sit there and eat a whole bag of Skittles. I have to. I try not to eat just like straight candy. I more go for like if I want a brownie after dinner, then I can do that. Like if I, go to the gym and then my number's a little lower, heading low, I'm like, maybe I'll eat a brownie and then it'll fix me right back up. And so I can eat basically anything in modification, and as long as I may have a good handle on things.
That's fantastic.
I have learned from one of my two of my baseball families, that cheese sticks are free.
Yes.
Cheese, you can eat as much cheese as you want.
Cheese are free food.
One of the very rare free foods.
But there are not very many, but cheese sticks are one of them.
We make sure we have cheese sticks at our concession stand for my type 1 families.
Yeah.
Paula Oleski says hi. Sherry Donahue says Ford is a great community partner. Brenda Davidson is watching, and Sherry Donahue says Barrett Jackson.
Barrett Jackson.
Thank you.
Yes. Sherry.
That is exactly it.
Barrett Jackson.
Which is an exciting time for the organization as a whole. We all tune in and watch that happen. It's pretty amazing.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
have
Jim.
2 vehicles that we're raffling off this year. The truck plant does have the Mustang that they're raffling off. Nationally, we are raffling off a one-of-a-kind Kona Blue Mustang with the package, the green card.
I couldn't think of Barrett Jackson. You're looking at me.
Oh my God, now I'm just drawing a blank on this.
That's okay.
Just
expect to have a pink slip tomorrow morning.
That's
Work for Ford. What?
I have the raffle tickets in my office.
That's okay. We've got some great things that are going to be auctioned off, and that's what really matters.
Always looking for our riders. We have a ride coming up, and if you're out there and you have a bicycle and nothing to do on June 24th, join us. We will have an awesome time. For some of the experienced cyclists out there, or someone who want to get more into cycling, our destination rides are a ride of a lifetime. Different fundraising packages. If you hit the highest fundraising package, it covers all your airfare, your hotel, and I guarantee you will be hooked and have the best weekend possibly ever on any type of bicycle ride.
Wow, and, that's amazing.
I've been so hooked now. I've done 5, and we'll probably do 4 to definitely doing 4, maybe 5 more this year. And so
you're a beast.
Again, it's a ride of a lifetime.
You're a draft horse.
I am a
You're a Clydesdale.
I'm a coach.
Mary, if you will, just give us a little summary of what we need to know to become involved with the Clydesdales and with this race, and how we can find out more information about JDRF. And I'm gonna step up here to the camera.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having us on today. And I would say that I would be remiss, and I know there's a lot of parents watching tonight. Hopefully we have the destination rides. We have a walk in Louisville scheduled for October the 13th. We're the only charity at Churchill Downs. Our gala next year on March the 9th. And we have a gala in Lexington, our 2nd year.
Sweet.
I know, it's really exciting. Hope for the holidays. And that is tentative right now. It may become Hope for Thanksgiving. We're looking at October the 5th. So many ways. Again, you can learn of all the various ways by visiting our website.
Clint, I hope you're coming back. I hope you're coming back. This handsome man gets there and he says, "I'm Clint Glasscock." He had actually texted, which is impossible for me to respond to because I'm broadcasting on my phone. So what I really need to do is figure out a way that I can get texts and I can, all that kind of stuff while we're broadcasting.
We were all looking at him like, well, where you going?
I know, it's like, please don't leave. It's time for your interview. But that's okay. We'll chat with these guys just a few minutes more. Jim, if you would be able to give people an idea of what it's like to bike, how would you explain that sensation? How would you explain that feeling?
Robin Williams compared bicycling to the closest thing that he could get to flying.
Oh, wow.
And, I grew up as a, lower middle class kid in Shively, and the only thing we had to do all the time was get out and go ride your bike.
Yeah.
Kids nowadays they're glued to their Xboxes or
Yep.
their PlayStations.
Yep.
I got out and rode my bike. Here I am, 49 years old now, and all I do is get out and go ride my bike.
And that's good. You're a good kid.
It's one of the most enjoyable things that I do is go ride I rode my bike to work today. I'm riding my bike home tonight. It's something I really enjoy, and it's a fun thing to get out and do with your family. It's a fun thing to get out and do by yourself. It's very healthy. It's a great way to lose weight. 8 years ago, I was about 70 pounds heavier than what I am right now currently.
And even bigger Clydesdale.
Even bigger Clydesdale. But I spent my 30s getting fat and spent my 40s getting it off, and the bicycle was helping me keep it off. So.
Do you know that the Clydesdales that pull the Budweiser wagon have to all meet a certain criteria? Lots of certain criteria, actually. They have to have certain colors of manes. They have to be a certain amount of weight. They have to have, specific bodily or conformation techniques. And I'm just always amazed when I came out to the summit this last Derby and got to see them close up. What an amazing group of horses. So to you, a Clydesdale, we thank you so much and we appreciate you. Jim and Savannah and Mary Dossett of the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, which has been rebranded to JDRF because it's not just juvenile anymore. So check out their website, jdrf.org, and find out more about this absolutely amazing organization. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
So, Jim, we're going to do a quick switch. Jim, I'm going to get you to take off your mic. Savannah, I'm going to get you to take off your mic. And I'll take that. I'll take that, Jim. Or not. I'll take that, Jim, or not. Okay, and Savannah, you're fine. You're just fine. Okay, we've got this here. Takes a few minutes to make the swap out, so just stay with us, will you? And you, my dear, are going to be the last woman standing. And I'm going to scoot over one. So you're going to hop up, take your mic off.
Thank you, Tara.
You're welcome, Mary. Clinton, can I get you to come over and join me over here? Right there in that chair next to me. That way I can get out of the sun a little bit too. All right, let me hook you up here. And thank you so much for coming out. I understand traffic was just horrendous.
Crazy.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry you had that trouble, but I'm really glad that you're here. So, what I would like to talk about with you is this guy right here is tied in amazingly to the horse racing industry. The first thing I need to know, though, are you related to Mary F?
Yes, that's my mom.
That's your mom?
Yes.
So Mary F dressed me when I was in the pageants.
Oh, wow.
When I was in the Miss Kentucky pageant.
We're going to talk about business. I didn't know if you knew that.
I do know that, and she's an absolutely amazing woman, and she knows so much about what she is, what she's doing in the terms of the horses and in terms of clothing. And she was famous for Glasscock, which is a great store on Chenoweth Avenue. And I just love her. So thank you. Tell her I said hello,
I will,
if you will.
sure.
So Clinton, you have an interesting connection to the Kentucky Derby and to the Triple Crown, and I want to know what it is.
Sure. So we are a part of Starlight Racing, which is a horse partnership with a lot of Louisville connections. And Jack Wolf is the managing partner, who originally is from Louisville, moved back here back in 2001 or 2002. And my dad and I, our family, started investing in Starlight. I want to say it was 08. It's either 07 or 08. And so we've been very fortunate, had a lot of success. Obviously, nothing like Justified, but our group every Starlight group every year is different. We've had a lot of the same partners. But we've had, up until Justify, we've actually had 3 horses in the Derby. I think our best finish was 9. And then, so that was Intense Holiday. We had another horse called It's a Knockout, and then another horse called General A-Rod. So I've been very fortunate to be a part of it, but never really had a serious contender until this year. And then we bought the racing rights of Audible, who ran 3rd.
I love that.
And Justify, who obviously is going on to win the Triple Crown. And we did that in like the 3rd or 4th week in February. So
okay, I want to ask you a question. You said we bought the racing rights.
Right.
What does that mean?
So typically, when you buy into horses, to my knowledge, it's the first time people have done the racing rights, but the owners, the principals are Windstar Farm and China Horse Club, and SF Bloodstock is who we bought the rights from. And then a 4th partner got involved after we did, called Head of Plains. Saul Kuhlman is his name. He learned of our deal and had worked with Windstar in the past and was able to get racing rights only. He only has racing rights after we did our deal in late February. And so we tried to buy 25% of both horses, but the price was so astronomical. And our group really is not that much into breeding. We're into the racing side of the business.
Right.
So we came with this idea that, hey, what if we just buy, like I said, the racing rights? We don't have any stallion ownership. So obviously the price was much, much less and made it an affordable transaction.
Okay, so when you have racing rights and you are making money on the fact that this horse, Justify, has won 3 incredibly popular and exhausting races and captured the highest award that can possibly be gotten in the horse kingdom, so to speak. He's now the Prince of the Triple Crown, I like to say. What's it going to be like for you if they choose, or you choose, I guess, you're all going to be a part of it, to not race anymore?
Well, you know, everything that we've been told, and honestly, we don't have any control over those decisions. We have, like I said, a minority position. So Elliot Walden at Windstar and the folks at China Horse Club will make that decision. Our understanding is that as long as the horses come out of the race, which all systems are that he did, all indications are, that we will have a fall campaign. And if you look what American Pharoah did after he was successful in the Triple Crown, which obviously Bob Baffert trained, he ran in the Haskell, which was in August. Well, it's either August 1st or July 31st, depending on the year.
Close enough for government work.
And then came back in the Travers, which is at the end of August, and then ultimately ran the Breeders' Cup Classic. So we're hoping we do at least the Travers and the Breeders' Cup Classic. And then there's a new race that came about 2 years ago called the Pegasus World Cup.
Wow, that sounds cool.
And that we participated in 2 years ago. It's a $12 million race, was 2 years ago at Gulfstream. And then this past year, we actually ran 3rd with a horse called Neolithic to a great horse called Arrowgate. I don't know if you remember that horse.
I do.
And then the subsequent year, in 2018, the race is for $16 million. So it hasn't been determined what that race will be worth, but it does give them the time to run in that race. And then if he will go to stud as a 4-year-old. So the goal, that would be the goal, at least our goal, because we only get purse earnings. We obviously don't get into stallion revenue. So hopefully that'll be the way he progresses through the fall.
Okay, so Clint, what I'm mostly thinking about, and this is something that I know a lot of people have concern over, when a horse is getting ready to go to stud, and this one is going to go for $75 million, I understand, which is just unbelievable.
You did your homework.
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely killing me to think about those numbers. I can't even comprehend those numbers.
Yeah.
$75 million. Now, I understand it was $65 million first, and then it became $75 million.
Well, what has been reported is $60 million reported to Coolmore, which is where American Pharoah stands.
Right, Coolmore Farm.
And then what has been reported, and I don't know if it's a fact or not, but that they got an additional $15 million for winning at Belmont.
I'll be darned.
So 75, and to give you a frame of reference, Pharoah sold for 40, and the largest stallion deal I'm aware of was Cigar years ago for $60 million, which, interesting enough, he was infertile.
Oh,
and
my
so
God.
the insurance company,
that's a problem.
the insurance company paid for that.
Yeah, big time, I'd imagine.
So I think if everything I'm hearing is correct, this would be the largest stallion deal.
Okay, so let me ask you the question about the great horses of the past who produced a lot of progeny, but maybe they weren't all that great. Who are some of the biggest racehorses that you are aware of that did a lot of work at stud but really never came up with winners?
Well, interesting enough, Secretariat really did not turn out to be a great stallion.
Yeah.
There's been a lot in the past. You're putting me on the spot here. I can't think of.
Well, AP Indy seems to have had quite a bit of success.
Yeah. So I thought you meant that were flops as stuff.
Well, yeah, I want to know about the flops too, but
Yeah,
I'm just thinking in terms of some of them were really successful.
AP Indy
Wasn't Indy one of the horses racing? Was it in this race in the Belmont?
I'm sorry.
I saw Indy.
Noble Indy.
Noble Indy.
Right, no,
Not
he's
the
doing-
same.
no,
Okay.
No, totally different.
Okay.
But like Unbridled Song, for instance,
Yes.
was a fantastic 2-year-old. Went on to be the favorite in the Derby and had a foot issue. They had to put a patch on him. He did not, and I don't think he raced again. But it turned out to be a phenomenal sire. It's a good example. Maybe that showed brilliance as a 2-year-old, but maybe not as a 3-year-old and older. And then another horse that was a decent horse was Tappet, who now stands for 300,000.
Wow, that's not bad. Not
in-
75 million, but
Right. Well, you think if he breeds 150 to 200 horses a year,
wow.
you take that times 300, it turns into a pretty good number. But,
Okay, so then the question becomes, how many people and who are these people that can afford to pay $75 million
so
for a stud fee?
yeah, well, so reportedly it's Coolmore, which is the Irish group. They have a farm. Well, they have a couple farms all over the world. The one that you would notice if you're going down Versailles Road, going to Keeneland.
Yes.
It's there on the right.
I've seen it.
Beautiful farm,
It
obviously.
is.
And we had a horse that was a 2-year-old champion, Starlight that is, Shanghai Bobby that stands there. And we structured a pretty good deal. We did have the racing rights and breeding rights on him. We sold him to them. He got hurt in his 3-year-old year and never got to race after the Florida Derby. But he stands there. Giants Causeway is another great stallion that stands there. So they're probably, with them and Godolphin, the 2 biggest horse owners.
And Godolphin is owned by the Sheikh, right?
So they're probably the 2 biggest players in the industry. And interesting enough, they owned Scat Daddy, who's the sire of Justify.
Wow.
So I think he actually passed away earlier this year. And I think that was one of the major reasons they wanted to buy Justify, is because obviously no longer can breed to him. So this is at least the same lineage.
Okay, so by the way, we're talking with Clint Glasscock, who is one of the owners of Justify, our brand new Triple Crown winner, and I'm so glad you had the time to come out and talk to us today. Thank you. When we do Wagon Wednesday, we usually have an animal on site. We were planning on having a miniature horse.
Oh gosh.
But we didn't do that because we had some last minute location changes and it wasn't going to work out. But I will have Strider, the miniature horse, part of the Tiny Heroes farm. And they are therapy horses, Clint.
Awesome.
Yeah, they really are. They go to school and the kids read to them.
Awesome.
And it is just amazing. So when a child is reading to this wonderful little miniature horse, they get a tremendous amount of satisfaction, and they'd be more likely to read to the horse than they would to their teacher.
Right.
So anyway, that's that. But today we're having a Wagon Wednesday about Clydesdales that are really bicycles. And Clint Glasscock, who is a partial owner of Justify. Can I ask you the question of how much of Justify do you own? Is it like his tail? Or his mane? His cute little nose that you could kiss?
So I don't know how you equate racing rights only, but it's 15% of his racing rights. I'll be glad to share that with you. But again, we have no ownership in the, unfortunately, in the stallion.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Funny story. I actually work for BB&T Insurance. That's my day job. Mm-hmm. And I had a client. They don't know much about the horse business. Is, well, are you still going to sell insurance? Or it's like no. Yes, I'm still going to be focused on
You have no
insurance.
idea.
Right. I don't get any of that $75 million.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So I guess the question that always comes to mind is, what happens if he does get injured? How does that affect his stud?
Well, when it comes to equine insurance, it's mortality only. So God forbid something like that happens. I'm sure Coolmore, if it's what I'm reading and hearing is true, they obviously have that piece insured, I would think. But you know, it's a tough game, and it could happen. Unfortunately, we've had it happen.
Barbaro.
You know, when they Barbaro,
Yep.
but when they get hurt and just can't race anymore.
Yeah.
So you know, they're 15 or 1,200 pound animals running on 4 little ankles. So it's a fragile business, and anything can happen. And you know, knock on wood, this horse really haven't missed a day of training since we've been involved.
It seems to me that the veterinary population of well, at least Louisville and Lexington, Root and Riddle, have really picked up the pace on working with the cannon bones. And I know that my childhood best friend went to Purdue to veterinary school, and she was going to do equine surgery, which she ended up doing. But I remember her getting radiographs from Churchill Downs and doing a lot of research on the fact that these little itty-bitty bones are in this massive animal's, you know, ankles, and they broke constantly. We had 8 bells go down at the finish line. You know, there have been so many examples of, are you going to just have one of those yourself, or are you going to give me one?
You could have.
So there are a lot of facets to horse racing that a lot of people probably don't know about.
Yeah, I think it's like all types of medicine. They've had a lot of advances, a lot of different ways to bring horses back. One thing that's kind of developed over the last 3 or 4 years is water. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, is water treadmills for horses.
Yeah.
So it's when they're coming back from injury, so they don't have all that weight. It's a good way to get a horse back into training. But there's been a lot of advances into medical care for horses and obviously humans.
I need that for my big boy Brady. He's a Lab Dane, and he's 10, so he's starting to have some hip issues.
Oh boy.
And Dr. Green at East Louisville Animal Hospital suggested I find a pool and let Brady swim in it, because it takes the weight off, just like it does with horses or with humans. When you have an injury like a knee or a hip injury, what do people tell you? The doctors say, go get in the pool.
Right.
You know, balance yourself out. And so in the particular case of this horse, Justify, I understand that he is as sound can be.
Yeah. Well, he's such a massive horse for a 3-year-old. You know, I think again, this is before we were involved, I think he had some growing pains and little issues as a 2-year-old. And so that's why he didn't make his first start until February of his 3-year-old year. But since we've been involved, like I said, knock on wood, he's been sound as can be, and he really hadn't missed a day of training.
So does it mean when you say racing rights, do you have to foot the vet bills?
Oh yeah. No, you get all expenses and revenue. So while they're on the track, you participate obviously in both.
And I've been told that Justify does not have American Pharaoh's personality from folks who are on the backside.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more reticent.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard Bob say, of course, I was never been that, well, I was pretty close to him. I went and took a tour of Coolmore back, I guess it was a year ago in April, and he definitely, humans petting him and being around him doesn't faze him a bit. He's like a big pet. I mean, just like a dog or something. But Justify, you get around him for about 5 or 10 seconds.
That's
he's like,
done.
all right, that's enough.
Oh
move
my
on.
God. Does he have to have a pet, like an animal, like they have some pot-bellied pigs or dogs or whatever, cats that stay with them?
Right, I know goats are a big thing on the
Oh yeah,
backside.
they sure are. Have you done goat yoga yet?
No.
I have.
No,
It's
I have
fabulous. It's fabulous. Try it. You should
I don't
try
like
it.
any part of yoga, but I work out a lot, but I don't do yoga. But no, he doesn't have any cats or goats or anything like that.
Well, so he's a tough guy. He basically can stand on his own 4 feet, which is all that matters. In the run-up, let's just talk about the run-up to the Triple Crown. You had an opportunity to get this incredible horse who was undefeated entering the 3 most stressful races that can possibly be run, and in such a short period of time. And a lot of people may not understand that that's the thing that can cause the most issues and can cause a loss, because we've got the Kentucky Derby at 1.25 miles, and then we've got 2 weeks till the Preakness, which is 1 mile of the 8th, and then we got 3 weeks to the Belmont, which is the killer, the 1.5 miles. That's a lot of running.
Yeah, even before those 3, he was kind of on the fast track, because you heard about there's not been a 2-year-old that hasn't raced a 2-year-old win the Derby since Apollo. I think it was 1892 or something like that. So his first start was February 18th. Then he came back 3 weeks later in an allowance race, and then he did what no horses usually do: go straight into the Santa Anita Derby, and then of course subsequently has won the 3. So he's had 6 races since February 18th, which is amazing. And so it's a grueling campaign. And you heard, at least I heard Bob mention that after the Derby, he tailed off just a little bit before the Preakness, and he did have a little foot bruise after the Derby. It was not a big issue. PETA tried to make it an issue, but it was not. But then after the Preakness, he kind of blossomed. I mean, we were so fortunate to have him here at Churchill Downs up until the Wednesday. Well, till the Wednesday before the Preakness and the Wednesday before the Belmont.
Yes.
So a lot of people got to go out and watch him gallop and train, and but I think Bob felt a lot more confident, believe it or not, coming into the Belmont. That extra week helps, no question.
2 quick questions. How does Justify travel?
People ask private.
Shocking.
I had another friend today say, well, I saw him stepping off a van. He vanned? I go, no. He vanned from the airport to Churchill.
And how does Mr. Baffert travel? Does he go with Justify?
No. He doesn't ride with the horse.
He has handlers.
Yes. Jimmy Barnes, the assistant trainer. I'm not sure if Jimmy goes. I know his groom goes in the plane with him.
Yeah, I was going to say their grooms are their best friends, and their grooms are the ones who will, literally sacrifice their lives for their horses.
Well, the same groom that rubbed or handled American Pharoah handled Justify.
Wow.
I think that's what these. We're very fortunate. We have probably 95% of our horses with Todd Pletcher, who's obviously one of the top.
He's fantastic.
And Baffert, obviously, if not the greatest, one of the greatest of all time. And I think what you find is like any good business, they surround themselves with the best people, the best assistants, the best grooms.
Yep.
Bob even brought in Martin Garcia to work him the 2 Mondays before the Belmont, and then the following, 2 Tuesdays before the Belmont, and then the week of the Belmont on a Monday, Garcia flew all the way in from California just to exercise him. And he's a real jockey in the afternoon. But I think that's the attention to details these guys got maybe over the rest of them.
Tell me about Bob Baffert. I met him many years ago before he was really famous.
Yeah.
And his wife Jill was an anchor here in Louisville, and we all kind of knew each other casually. But tell me about Bob Baffert, because why would you have him be the trainer as opposed to anybody else?
Well, again, we bought in after the fact. So Elliot Walton at WinStar picked, and they've got a lot of trainers they work with. They don't just work with Bob. But Elliot thought this horse suited the West Coast. He felt like the weather, because he was going to be on such a fast track, because he had his little issues as a 2-year-old. So he thought the West Coast would be best because the weather out there.
Sure.
So he chose Bob, and this was the first horse we've ever had with him. I've been in the horse business for, I guess 22 years, and I've been around it since I was like 3 years old.
Yes, of course, because your mom does saddlebreds.
Right, and Dad's always taken me out to Churchill. And so the perception I had was that he's really standoffish and kind of cocky, and because he always has those one-liners with the cameras and all that.
Right.
And so I got to know him a little bit, and during this, of course, run we've had, and he's the nicest guy, and I give him a lot of credit because he goes on Today's Show, he does as much media requests that I think that he's been asked to, so it's great for the business. And I mean, deep down, he's really a good, normal guy. I mean, he's not at least what my perception was. And then Jill, I knew her very little bit when she was in Louisville, and she could not be nicer.
She's
actually
adorable.
Our oldest son babysat Bodie for part of Derby week because he came in. The son came in all week.
Yes.
So got to meet her and know her a little bit, and she couldn't be nicer.
Yeah,
so
she
both
is.
of them are just great.
Why does Bob wear sunglasses all the time?
I don't know the answer to that. I guess
Those are important questions.
That's his style, I guess.
Clint Glasscock is with us talking about the amazing Justify. He's a part owner. He owns his tail, and he's going to watch this horse as it goes into $75 million stud. And so where are the breeding sheds? Does everyone come to Justify, or does so he doesn't travel to other breeding sheds?
They got a heck of a job. They are led out of their stall into the breeding shed, which is probably about 100 feet from his stall. But that's for all stallion farms. The mares go to the farms where the stallions are located.
Sure. Okay, so question that some people might not want to know the answer to, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is this artificial insemination, or is it done naturally?
No, it has to be done naturally.
Really?
Yes.
Now you're surprising me.
No, thoroughbreds have to be done naturally, and actually they're filmed. They're filmed at
in the
majority,
act?
Majority, if not all, these stallion farms.
In delicto flagrante.
And the saddlebreds, what Mom does, that's in vitro, but not thoroughbreds.
Why? Oh, you're not a vet. I'm not asking you. I'm not a
That's the
vet
way it's
either,
always
but
been.
I play one on TV.
Yeah, that's the way it's always been.
So we'll find out. We'll find out about that, and I'll
Yeah.
give you the answer on my next Take It From Tara. We're
You
talking
know, we
with...
mentioned Thoroughbred Aftercare. If you look at it, all the ownership groups donated a percentage of his winnings in the Triple Crown to New Vocations, which
Love
is the
them.
Thoroughbred Aftercare.
Yeah, I did an article on them last year
Yeah.
and was so impressed. This is an absolutely beautiful facility in Lexington that takes in retired racehorses and trains them for new jobs. So it may be a hunter jumper, it could be, you know, doing some other, like a cart horse, whatever. It will do something that will be of value. Some of them are therapy horses. And it's wonderful to know that we have organizations like New
Yeah.
Vocations because, you know, with the story of Ferdinand, you just don't ever want that to happen again. Ferdinand was a Kentucky Derby winner who was shipped off to slaughter, which was horrifying. And I don't know that anybody really knew what was happening, but it was one of the worst stories of a Kentucky Derby winner being so badly mistreated and ending up in a dog food factory. So we have fought very hard to make sure that that doesn't ever happen again, and the folks at New Directions do a great job. So Clinton, Caroline Knopp, who told us to come, it's 5:29. She said you had to leave at 5:30.
I could. I'm just going down the road, so I
Okay,
got a little
you
more
got a
time.
few minutes?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So when you have a horse like Justify, which you do, because you own part of Justify, his tail. So when you have a horse like Justify, you are part of the crew of people, I imagine, that gathered around him at the end of the race, at the Kentucky Derby, at the Preakness, at the Belmont, and received the trophy. Am I right in that?
I'm going to show you a picture here in a minute. But,
Okay.
So we were able to be in all the winter circles, but then the trophy presentation, like on Saturday, the NBC trophy presentation,
Yes.
is up on I guess a pedestal is what you call it.
Sure.
So Jack Wolf, our managing partner, was up there along with the China Horse Club and Windstar, but he was the only partner that was there. And then at the Preakness, we were in the winter circle again, but Jack was up on the podium, I think you call it there. And then of course we all know Churchill Downs in the winter circle, but then where the governor is up above the winter circle. So
Where Steve Buttleman plays
Right.
his my old Kentucky home.
I'll show you a picture of Belmont
Or the
on
Call to the
Saturday,
Post.
which is crazy.
So I'm going to tell you something about this that's interesting too. Many times isn't that amazing? Okay, so the picture reflects about how many people? 100?
At least.
100 people
That's Belmont.
in the finish, in the winner's circle at the finish of the Belmont with Justify. We're gonna you have to send that to me.
Yeah,
we'll
I
post
will.
it on my Facebook
Yeah, I
page
will.
because that's hysterical. 100 people. No wonder you only own a tail.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
Lord.
there's a lot of people in that picture that don't own any of it, but
I don't know if you actually own the entire tail. I think you might own half of the hair on the tail. So I have two things to say about
Sure.
the horses. First of all, I'm friends with Lauren Hebel Osborne,
Okay.
and she let me see the birth of Smartified,
Oh wow.
who of course was Smarty Jones' baby with Justified. And I'm telling you what, that was the most exciting moment of my life. And I've had a lot of exciting moments, but to be in the stall with a beautiful baby thoroughbred horse lying on me, getting afterbirth all over my clothes, was just an extraordinary experience. Have you witnessed the birth of a horse?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Many times.
Yeah, quite a bit. But it's an amazing, because as you know, it's just like human birth. You can't. There's not a clock that tells you
That's
go out to
right.
the barn at 5:30.
That's right.
So you kind of have to stand around and wait, and it's an amazing deal.
And I grew up with minis, so every
Okay.
time the mare would be ready to foal, we would be watching her very carefully. But she took care of everything herself. She was a very smart horse.
Yeah.
She'd bite the afterbirth in the umbilical cord, she'd clean off her baby, and they'd be up and running. And those minis would be running around the orchard within a very short period of time. So, it's so wonderful to be a Kentuckian, and it's so wonderful to love horses, and especially at this time of year
Right.
when we've had such tremendous success. What did winning the Triple Crown mean to you and your family personally?
Well,
Try to put it in words.
The Derby is on another level. I mean, that's always been the goal, and
Yes.
we've won a Breeders' Cup race, we've won a lot of nice races, but the goal always has been to get Dad that Kentucky Derby win, and we were very fortunate to have 3 in it, And the first goal was to make the walk over for any Louisvillian. I think that's everybody, that and my old Kentucky home. Favorite part of watching the owners
Yes.
bring their horses over.
Yes.
So we were fortunate enough again to do that.
All 100 of you?
No. The Starlight, that's a whole other deal. I mean,
Okay.
Starlight, we owned the horse, and there was no other partners, just the Starlight group on those 3 horses. So that was great. But then you do that, it's kind of like everything in life. You participate, and then you're like, okay, now I really want to win it. And so this year, I thought we had 2 very live shots. It turned out we did.
Who was the other one?
Audible.
Okay.
That ran 3rd. He got
Okay.
beat like that for 2nd. So you kind of had a little more skip to your step, I guess. And then I don't know if I've told you this, I got to watch it over on the grass where all the military men are, when they're singing My Old Kentucky Home. And it was kind of like when they sang My Old Kentucky Home, they were singing at you. It was crazy.
It was pretty
experience.
amazing.
Yeah. So we were very fortunate to get to watch it there. But I think that was the ultimate high, was winning the Kentucky Derby. And then once you do that, once we were fortunate to do that, we went to Baltimore, and it was such a horrible day. It was probably worse.
You couldn't even see the horses
right.
running.
It's probably worse than the Derby day, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
yeah. Well, it was the fog.
Oh,
You couldn't see anything on the backside.
And NBC did a phenomenal job
Yes.
of keeping their cameras. I guess they have different ones across the track.
Sure, tons.
Well, the internal feed that Pimlico puts up, the horses went. We watched at the exact same spot pretty much it did the Derby, like 5 jumps before the finish line. So when they go by you the first time, you turn and you're watching the TV, and literally all you saw was fog. We had no clue
Where are the horses?
Right. And so you're really freaking out, and it was like a movie. You all of a sudden his big white blaze came out of the fog.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, anyway. So the Preakness was awesome, don't get me wrong, but nothing like the Derby. But then Saturday, it kind of got almost to Derby level, because now you're making history. There's only been 12 other horses do it. And so it was not quite as nerve-wracking as the Derby, or even the exhilarating feel you have after a race or the Derby. But it was pretty special. Don't get me wrong. It was a lot of fun.
When the caller of the race said at the very end, he's immortal, it just, that was one of the things that just made me burst into tears.
Yeah.
It chokes me up to even to think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking too that there was a race strategy. I'm going to ask you about it since you said you'd stay a few extra minutes.
I think I know where you're going. That
Bob, what makes you mad?
No, I don't know where you're going. I'll tell you the story that I'm thinking.
Okay, so Bob set a moving screen. He conferred with Denny Crum before this all happened. He set a moving screen, and the horse actually, what was it, Noble something?
Restoring Hope. Well, Noble Indy.
Noble Indy and Restoring Hope. So allegedly, that helped our horse, Justify, get out of the starting gate. And the way that I look at it is, that doggone horse got out of the starting gate every time with no problem and went wire to wire without a speck of dust on Mike Smith.
Well, Mike Rapoli owns, he's a New York guy. He owns Noble Indy and he owns Vino Rosso. And he came out at the post draw and said Noble Indy's going to go to the lead no matter what and take it to Justify. And then I think their theory was that Vino Rosso would come and close. And, I've heard this blocking scenario theme, and really what happened was Noble Indy wasn't fast enough, or Castellano didn't get the instructions, one of the two, to go out with Justify, and then Restoring Hope was going to be close, but Florent Giroux, who rides here on the Kentucky circuit, so if you know anything about horse racing, if you're trying to get a horse to settle, you get him away from horses.
Yes.
And so Restoring Hope is Baffert's other horse. They talk about blocking. He broke really well, and then Florent Giroux was just trying to get him away from the 2 inside horses to get him to settle. And it just so happened, Noble Indy was back behind him, and Noble Indy wasn't fast enough to get in front of Restoring Hope, much less Justify. So I think it's ridiculous. But
Well, it's like, we were talking to Jim just a few minutes ago, and we had the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, now known as JDRF, and he's at Clydesdale, and he drafts, and all the guys behind him are just caught in the draft, and they don't really have to do the work because he's doing all the work for them. So, it sounds to me like there's a possibility that this could have occurred as well, that, Justify was being the draft horse, and everybody was following along with him. So, what now for you, Clinton?
We're excited. So Saturday night, I'm on the board of the Derby Museum, and they're having the owners, to update the greatest race, which is going to be really neat.
And my friend Kay Milam is the production manager on that. She gets all the crew together, and they're at the finish line, and they do several days of video, and it's always beautiful.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So we're going out there for Saturday night at 5 o'clock, and then, of course, night racing, and then they're going to parade Justify at Churchill that night.
Oh, wow, cool.
So, and he's obviously here through Sunday.
Yes.
Then I think Bob will he's taking him back to California and watch him train. And
flying privately, we might add.
And so, as long as the horse comes out well, I mean, the majority owners, WinStar and China, so we want to continue to run him. So they're calling the shot. Obviously, we want him to run some way we make money. So do
you have other horses that your ownership, is active with right now?
Oh yeah. So Starlight, these two are, again, separate. Every Starlight deal is different. It's a different LLC.
Sure.
So we have some partners in this horse that are not partners of what are now our 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds. Every group's different. But, we've got 9 2-year-olds. We've got 11 3-year-olds.
Wow.
And probably like 5 4-year-olds left.
Good group.
And then, so every year we go to the yearling sales, and Frankie Brothers is our bloodstock agent, who's from Louisville.
Love Frankie, love Donna.
Yep, and Donna is our COO. So we'll pick out. There's 2 things. There's Starlight and Star Lady. Starlight will have anywhere from 10 to 12 yearlings between the July phasing sale, August phasing sale, and the September Keeneland sale. And then Star Ladies is something Lori Wolf runs, which is Jack's wife, obviously. And it's a different group, ladies only. And they've had a lot of success. And so they'll buy anywhere from 3 to 5 horses. But Frankie picks all those out. So that's kind of the Starlight program. And then this year, we bought 2 2-year-olds in training. They're actually going to go to Baffert. Shocker. So we just did those about 45 days ago.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I live in a place in Crescent Hill that's just a wonderful amalgam of people, and we actually had Todd Pletcher's assistant trainer at the time, Mike McCarthy.
Oh yeah, no way.
Living there with us,
Yeah.
and he won the Derby with Super Saver,
Yep.
and a party ensued in that neighborhood, the likes of which had never been viewed. And then I have a friend named Johanna Perry who works for a bloodstock agent, which is
Yep.
really cool. So I get to hear a lot of these things. I don't go out to the track very much. I really don't, but I would love to go to the backside. And actually, I did this years ago when I was doing the weather and everything else out there. I would love to go to the backside and just walk amongst the horses again and just feel that beauty of the morning.
Yeah.
That's really when you get a sense of what horse racing is all about, when you can connect with the horses. You may not be able to touch them, but you can certainly watch them. So it's really amazing. Clinton, thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate you coming out. Clint
Absolutely.
Glasscock, who owns the tail of Justify, and a lot of other folks own it too. We saw 100 pictures in the winner's circle, which is great. But I will be back on Monday, 4 to 6, with Take It From Tara, special guests that I'm not going to tell you about right now, but I will over the weekend. And thanks so much to JDRF, Mary, and Savannah, and Jim for doing what they do so well, and especially to you, Mister, for driving against traffic all the way out here. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All righty then.